Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, June 30th, 2023. New information reveals IRS agent used fake name to target Ohio resident. That's the title of the press release issued on June 16, 2023 by the Committee on the Judiciary regarding a letter sent to IRS Commissioner Werfel. Now, to anyone doubting the manner in which the 87,000 new IRS agents will be used, this is a scary wake-up call. Here are some excerpts from that letter. On March 27, 2023, the committee previously wrote to you and to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen about an IRS agent visiting, unannounced and unprompted, the home of journalist Matt Taibbi. Incredibly, at the time of the visit, Mr. Taibbi was testifying before the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government about how the federal government pressured, coerced, and even directed technology companies to take certain actions related to digital content. On April 25, 2023, an IRS agent who identified himself as Bill House with the IRS's Criminal Division visited the home of a taxpayer in Marion, Ohio. Agent House informed the taxpayer that he was at her home to discuss issues concerning an estate for which the taxpayer was the fiduciary. After Agent House shared details about the estate that only the IRS would know, the taxpayer let him in. Agent House told the taxpayer that she did not properly complete the filings for the estate and that she owed the IRS a substantial amount. Prior to the visit, however, the taxpayer had not received any notice from the IRS of an outstanding balance due on the estate. During the visit, the taxpayer told Agent House that the estate was resolved in January of 2023 and provided him with proof that she had paid all the taxes on the decedent's estate. At this point, Agent House revealed that the true purpose of his visit was not due to any issue with the decedent's estate, but rather because the decedent allegedly had several delinquent tax return filings. Agent House provided several documents to the taxpayer for her to fill out, which included sensitive information about the decedent. The taxpayer called her attorney, who immediately and repeatedly asked Agent House to leave the taxpayer's home. Agent House responded aggressively, insisting, "I'm an IRS agent, and I can be at and go into anyone's house at any time I want to be." Before finally leaving the taxpayer's property, Agent House said he would mail paperwork to the taxpayer and threatened that she had only 1 week to satisfy the remaining balance, or he would freeze all of her assets and put a lien on her house. On May 4, 2023, the taxpayer spoke with the supervisor over Agent House, who clarified that nothing was owed on the estate. The supervisor even admitted to the taxpayer that things should never have gotten this far. On May 5, 2023, however, the taxpayer received a letter from the IRS, the first and only written notice that she had received on the decedent's delinquent tax filings, addressed to the decedent, which stated that the decedent was delinquent on several 1040 filings. On May 15, 2023, the taxpayer again spoke with the supervisor over Agent House, who told the taxpayer to disregard the May 5th letter because nothing was due. On May 30th, 2023, the taxpayer received a letter from the IRS that the case had been closed. Now, this behavior from an IRS agent to an American taxpayer, providing an alias, using deception to secure entry into the taxpayer's home, and then filing an inspector general complaint against a police officer examining the matter, all that is highly concerning. In conclusion, now we all know them, people among us who just delight in using their position to exert power over us. It can be the city employee who closes the help window straight up at noon because that's his lunchtime. He doesn't care that people may have been waiting in line for 30 minutes or more. He's going to make them wait until his lunch break is over or until another employee opens the window. All of us have seen people who seem to resent having to serve others and will do anything they can to frustrate or humiliate those they're supposed to be serving. However, there's a difference in the Mr. House case. He was almost certainly armed and was threatening to take aggressive IRS action unless the lady instantly complied with his demands. How many more IRS agents are there like Mr. House? Well, we don't know exactly, but there are undoubtedly a significant number of them who enjoy being in a position where they can legally threaten and coerce people. Well, why does Congress allow these types of abuses? Because they've been told that people won't pay their taxes unless they're threatened or coerced. So, what does this say about our tax system? Do people living in a free country really want a tax system that has to be enforced at gunpoint? Is this our future, to be accosted on our own homes by armed IRS personnel who use deception to gain entry and then threaten us if we don't immediately satisfy their unfounded demands? We should all remember this quote from George Orwell's 1984, which, if we do nothing, may foretell your and your children's future. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. How much longer will the D.C. establishment ignore the obvious, that the income payroll tax system and the IRS are broken and they can't be fixed? How much longer will we tolerate the D.C. establishment's refusal to do the right thing because of their greed and their desperate desire to control us? How much longer will Americans tolerate not knowing the true cost of the federal government, which the income payroll tax system hides and the FAIRtax shows on every receipt? How much longer will the American people tolerate IRS abuses? Now, Congress and D.C. know that there's a better alternative, the FAIRtax. So instead of spending your time doing endless hours of paperwork that don't create anything of value for yourself, your family, or the nation, why not just eliminate the unnecessary waste? Now, many in D.C. oppose the FAIRtax because it would transfer power from the government to the people, while at the same time giving the people a better chance of succeeding on their own. Now, isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? When the FAIRtax is enacted, there will be no need to fear being audited by the IRS because there will be no more IRS. Under the FAIRtax, there will be no more tax returns. We'll pay our taxes when we make retail purchases of new goods and services. Now, there's going to be a vote on the FAIRtax in the House of Representatives. Speaker McCarthy and the other elites didn't want it, but it was forced on them. So now we have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the present income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the FAIRtax. They can support the corrupt income tax in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate them. It can't be any simpler than that. They can vote to hide the true cost of government, or they can pass the FAIRtax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from the government to the people, the FAIRtax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the FAIRtax needs to be changed, then they can propose that change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a little flaw that can be easily addressed. Please stand with us and demand that your representatives support a much fairer, much simpler, and much more efficient way to fund the government, the FAIRtax. With the FAIRtax, there are no tax returns to file and no records to keep. We pay our federal taxes when we make retail purchases of new goods and services. And with the FAIRtax, there is no need for the IRS. If you sell a used couch or a used jet ski online, there's no FAIRtax due on that transaction. The FAIRtax will allow us to take back control. The income payroll tax system is broken. It's no longer working. We can't repair it, but we can replace it with the FAIRtax. Join us and take back control of our country and our lives, not with bullets, but with the elimination of one of the biggest threats to our liberty and economic prosperity, the income payroll tax. We should all remember Edmund Burke's warning that applies to our efforts to take back control. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. So, what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the FAIRtax. Take back control. Help us pass the FAIRtax. Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing, or we'll actually call this investing, $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, because we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to FAIRtax.org and invest in Americans for Fair Taxation. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.